Is that hum coming from here, or is that something happening to my ear?
We're hearing it.
No, good.
Hooray.
When in doubt, hit something. Work. Thank you very much, Harold, for the introduction. Celeste, a very inspiring presentation, and I want to thank the Montana Historical Society for inviting me here. 3 years ago, I was the sub on one of the presentations in Helena, and ever so kind for the society to invite me back with top billing. And it certainly is a pleasure and an honor to be on this agenda with these two lovely individuals. Oh, enough of smoothing it over, right? Let's get down to brass tacks. I want to speak, and this is, in a sense of the word, a paid commercial, courtesy of the Society. As Mr. Gray indicated, I am the founder and head worker, as they say, along with two other of my fellow tribesmen, Dorothy Stillsmoking and Edward Littleplume. And approximately 5 years ago, we founded the Piegan Institute, which really is the Americanization, in reality, the French version of our original name, or our primary name, which is Picani. And Picani, just in terms of sign language, since it was referenced earlier, is this. And we belong to a confederacy, you may or may not know, consisting of the Kainai, which are the many chiefs or the Bloods located today in Alberta, the Siksikawa, which are the Blackfoot people, and incidentally there's always controversy. People say, are you the Blackfoot or the Blackfeet? Blackfeet was a name really bestowed officially upon the Blackfeet Tribal Business Council, which is the governmental legal arm of the Blackfeet tribe. Within the language, when you are speaking with other members of our confederacy, they will refer to us as Picani, or more specifically, Amskapi Picani, or South Piegans. It's interesting, when they first, when the Frenchmen, encountered the Confederacy members, they called him Nititapa Piquan, or real white person. And I guess later on, the white people they encountered were simply white people. So the name then came from the French, because the French, you know, they put a twist on everything, you know that. And they couldn't say Picani, and they said, what do you think? You know, Piegan, Picani, and it gradually evolved into Piegan. Oh, incidentally, the other member of our confederacy is the North Picani, or North Piegans, located near Pincher Creek, and they are referred to in our language as Apatos Picaniques. In other words, they backed up their horses when the line came across. One other thing. Those of you that have watches, will you wave at me about
in about 15 minutes.
In about 15 minutes, all right? and I'll get carried away, and I'll think you're, you know, really inspired, and I'll wave back. Let me know, please, someone. And let me get on with what I'm after. November 11th, we're hoping, November 7th, we are hoping at the culmination of a very long lobbying effort by the part of Piegan Institute, by the part of other groups associated with us in our society called the Native American Language Institute, and we're about 2,000 strong, located throughout North America, and primarily Native American speaking, including the Native Hawaiian group and the Maori of New Zealand. 5 years ago in Native American Language Institute, we agreed, after studying locally our own languages, that most Native American languages will disappear by the year 2050. And the World Indigenous Council of Canada, composed of elders, Native American elders throughout Canada, in their report 3 years ago, indicated that they were very disappointed and obviously very upset at the ultimate demise of the majority of the languages of North America. On November 11th, we are hoping that President Bush will find it in his power and foresight to sign our bill. And our bill has recently passed the Senate and the House by a very wide margin. It took them 70 seconds to pass the bill, on which we had lobbied approximately 4 years for. This bill essentially is to preserve, promote, and protect Native languages. It carries no money attached to it, so rest assured, you know, my taxes. And it is essentially much along the line trying to encourage people to take an interest in Native languages along the same line of thought that we take interest in preserving other species and forms of life. Native languages are living embodiments of the thousands and thousands and thousands of years and the thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people that spoke them. And we are in very serious danger in the very near future of losing all of these language. For example, in Montana, the Gros-Ventre tribe has a total of 22 speakers left on Earth. And they are all, as you can well imagine, quite elderly. This summer, Piegan Institute, one of the activities we do is we go to many, many communities, and we have gone to Hawaii, we have gone throughout Canada and throughout Montana primarily, and we produce a lot of workshops with Native peoples, showing them the logistics as well as the techniques for preserving their languages, at least beginning to preserve them. I often say in my presentations, you know, including myself, we're very generous when someone passes the hat and asks us to save the trees, save the whales, save the darter snail, save a vine, because we all, in fact, embrace the idea that life is sacred. It's rather uncanny right now that yet when we begin to ask people to embrace the idea of saving a native language, the reaction is much, much different. Because we fall into the trap of the politicalized educational systems of 1900 and the Americanization of America, not only for Native Americans, but by every immigrant that ever came to the shore. And we often start off our presentations when we in fact have adequate time to get to the heart of the matter by asking anyone in all audiences that we encounter, those of you that have a grandparent that spoke another language other than English, please raise your hand. And we invariably get plenty of hands. And one of the really inspiring people that we met when we were attempting to decipher how we wanted to go about saving a native language was a nice gentleman from the Sons of Norway. And anybody familiar with that group? Am I stunning you? You're all sort of, you know. And he said, he was so nice about it. I was in the Missoula Fairgrounds during the state fair over there, and I was walking along near his stand, and he waved me over and he said, would you like to have some food here? And then he asked me if I want to join the Sons of Norway. So I'm going to start off the Sons of Piegan. Get them and I said, well, what do you guys do over there at Sons of Norway? And he said, oh, we eat Norwegian food, we speak Norwegian language, we dance Norwegian songs. I said, well, we do that too. We call it, powwows in the Indian days. But he told me a story, he related a brief story to me, and that was essentially that as a young man in Missoula County schools, he was admonished and punished for speaking Norwegian. And it was made very clear to him that he should speak English. And so I think all groups in America have gone through this process. And one of the processes and results that we have found that's extremely inspiring to us is always about fourth generation. Here pops up this little Norwegian kid, or this little German kid, or this little Blackfeet kid, or this little Cree kid, and they go, "Hey, Mom, you know, how come I can't speak like Grandma?" And this is a phenomena that is part and parcel of Americanization and Americana itself. In spite of the fact that we all may want to become that bland, opaque, idealistic American whose roots can be traced back no longer than the previous generation, and the idealism that we seek towards that, we invariably end up like places like this, trying to dig around in the old cast-offs of our own past. Native languages, particularly Blackfeet, are extremely inspiring to study. In fact, languages in general are inspiring to study. And I often wonder, in this case, in time and age, when we cast off so much of the best things about ourselves, and one of the best things about all of us was our languages, and yet we did little to protect them or to save them. The Blackfeet tribe right now is like other tribes in serious jeopardy of losing their language. And we certainly then, at that point in time, will see the end of a spectrum of development as opposed to looking into the center of it and saying, I wonder what will happen when the day comes when these people no longer have their land or no longer have their identity or no longer, all of these scenarios that we so often read about and sometimes, in fact, embrace. The Blackfeet language itself is so uniquely different after you study it and you speak it that you become quickly able to realize that each language presented a different form of thinking for the people that spoke it. And that language itself often held the key and the gems and the beauty that was spoken to earlier in regards to the same discovery, obviously, Mr. Linderman had made, and many, many others, incidentally. And people say, oh, well, I can't become fluent overnight, so I don't want to mess with it. So we often encourage people, study the language. It's not necessary to become fluent overnight, to enjoy it. How am I doing time-wise? Anybody help me out here?
7 more minutes.
7 more minutes, my gosh. All right, good enough. I can count that way. I'll just hold my hands up and go like this, you know. Somebody count to 60 for me. Why don't somebody just loan me and buy me a watch, yeah. So, quickly enough, back to the point. So here we are in America, in Montana, languages disappearing all around us. When Columbus got here, it is estimated there were between about 3,000 to 4,000 languages and dialects in North America. By 1900, about 250 to 300. By 1990, 200. By 2050, 5. So, it's imperative that we somehow do something about this. And as I said 5 years ago, the Piegan Institute was one of the results of an accumulation of effort after having attended the Native American Language Institute and embracing their ideas about saving languages. We hope, not necessarily to bring back languages to the forefront, but certainly bring them back in a sense of the word that we consider them academic and intellectually stimulating as well as spiritually involving individuals that partake of them. And I can honestly share this with you. I grew up in a home where the Blackfeet language was spoken by both my parents and all those around me. And we likewise find this phenomena in other homes as well, non-Indian homes. Grandma speaks French. Her daughter is sent to school, admonished not to speak French, to speak American. The daughter can understand French, can't speak it, and then her daughter cannot understand it, nor can she speak it, but she's in love with it. Same difference. And you often wonder, how could you be in a house, growing up with your parents, and they're speaking German or Blackfeet or Japanese all around you, and you never learn 5 words, or except maybe a few dirty words, you know, or something like that, and use them on somebody once in a while. That in itself is a phenomena to study. That is itself a phenomenon. So what we did when we tried to come out of this, because it's obviously we're not going to walk up, and I figure myself the same way. I grew up in this home with Blackfeet all around me, and one of the typical end results of that where you cannot speak the language. And I am in fact an English professor by early training. It's like telling people you're a dentist, though. You don't bring it up too much. And yet here we are as Americans, delanguaged from all these nice languages it's had, and we all invariably hate taking English class because they want us to speak a different way than we do. And so we had to learn how to learn these languages quickly. During the time that Piegan Institute, because most of us involved in it were teachers or at least researchers or historians, we embraced the idea of attempting to find out an accelerated method to learn a language. Do you know, those of you in the room that have BA degrees and probably took French or Spanish or German or Spanish in college in order to graduate, I suspect you'd all starve to death in a Spanish restaurant. And in spite of your 38 credit hours of Spanish. And we know that. And in fact, only 5 out of 100 people who take the standard course of instruction at a university level, only 5 out of 100 will ever learn that language to the point of being able to get a sandwich somewhere in Madrid. You know, my friend got on the boat and he thought he could speak French. And he ordered a nice French off the French menu, and he went on, and he thought he'd really done well, and they brought him a grapefruit. And, you know, and being a good Montana boy, you know, he was really hoping for a steak. So we embarked about 3 or 4 years ago in investigating a variety of methods to learn how to learn languages quickly. And one of them that we embraced was from who we now call our chief guru, Chief Boohoo, the man who really opened up doors for us. And this is a gentleman named Dr. James Asher from San Jose State University. And Mr. Asher's group had been investigating for the last 20 years the means of how to learn language, and came up with one called total physical response. And total physical response is essentially how you learned at your mother and father's knee how to speak. And it's essentially coupling a physical movement with every possible word or combination. And as it was referred to earlier here, right brain, left brain, all of those things are part and parcel of it. We did find this, that it's extremely successful and it's very efficient and it absolutely works. And as a result, the majority of the people that we are involved with in our language studies have learned languages rather quickly to enable them to study it. In addition, we have been able to go into public schools who are very reluctant, not only to allow Blackfeet in there, but you must understand they are reluctant to let any other language in there, and they're rather hard-pressed to teach English as it is. At any rate, we have, in the last 4 or 5 years, been able to share our knowledge and share our pursuit and share our enthusiasm and to incorporate this into some very intelligent, intellectual, sponsoring, spiritual, kind of enthusiastic ways that young children just go crazy for. And we've been very impressed with ourselves, and as well as extremely happy that we were able to find this man, Mr. Asher, to help us particularly in this effort. We have taught young children in Browning Public Schools, showed the techniques to them. The Grovons this summer, we spent 1 week with them in the Little Rockies. They brought literally one of the last speakers of their tribe. We camped out near a place called Big Warm, which is a natural hot springs in the Little Rockies. They put up their lodges, and we stayed there for a week, sharing the technique with them, and along with sign language that we've also involved ourselves in, and also pictographs, as was indicated earlier. We have taken pictographs off, the older pictographs, deciphered them, and used them in our technique.
Ding, ding.
okay? So, how it works is simply this. We would show the picture, the sign, the word, in a variety of ways. And I can only tell you this, that most of the people involved do learn the language. And once you get someone involved in learning the language, you seem to have accomplished your real goal in life, and that is you've created a true believer. And there's nothing like a true believer when they are involved in your cause. You well know that. So I would hope that the little bit of this rambling wreck that I just laid out here, I feel like somebody's over my shoulder, and there obviously is. I would want to thank you for the opportunity for me to share with you briefly some of the current statuses of native languages, and certainly encourage you. I'll hang around here for a little while and visit with you individually if you have any other questions in regards to our effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Darryl.